Let's give all praises and thanks for the Most High's mercy and grace that we are here. And now let's all please stand and face the east so we can pray in. And everybody can repeat after me. AHRAYAH. Bahashem. Yeshaya. Our Father. Which art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. AHRAYAH. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth. As it is in heaven. Give us this day. Our daily bread. And forgive us. Our debts. As we forgive. Our debtors. And lead us not into temptation. But deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom. And the power. And the glory. Forever. Amen. Shema Yashar Allah AHRAYAH Eloheinu AHRAYAH Echad.
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 Hear, O Israel. AHRAYAH, our power is one.
AHRAYAH, our power is one.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to the gathering of Christ's Church, Chicago, Illinois. Kwam Yasharella. Shem Yah, Officer Bakar, Bonya Habada, Bonya Charella. Reading the law, starting in Exodus chapter 20, verse 1. Let me know when you get there. And the highest spake all these words. Saying. Verse 2. I am AHRAYAH thy power. Which has brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Out of the house of bondage. Verse 3. Thou shalt have no other powers before me. Verse 4. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above. Or that is in the earth beneath. Or that is in the water under the earth. Verse 5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them. Nor serve them. For I, AHRAYAH thy power, am a jealous power. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children. Unto the third and fourth generation of them. That hate me. Verse 6. And showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me. And keep my commandments. Verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of AHRAYAH thy power in vain. For AHRAYAH will not hold him guiltless. That taketh his name in vain. Verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day. To keep it holy. Verse 9. 6 days shalt thou labor. And do all thy work. Verse 10. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of AHRAYAH thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work. Thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate. Verse 11. For in 6 days AHRAYAH made heaven and earth.
For in 6 days AHRAYAH made heaven and earth.
The sea.
The sea.
And all that in them is.
And all that in them is.
And rested the seventh day.
And rested the seventh day.
Wherefore AHRAYAH blessed the Sabbath day.
Wherefore AHRAYAH blessed the Sabbath day.
And hallowed it.
And hallowed it.
Verse 12. Honor thy father and thy mother.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
That thy days may be long upon the land.
That thy days may be long upon the land.
That AHRAYAH thy power giveth thee.
That AHRAYAH thy power giveth thee.
Verse 13. Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill.
Verse 14. Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Verse 15. Thou shalt not steal.
Thou shalt not steal.
Verse 16. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Verse 17. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Nor his manservant.
Nor his manservant.
Nor his maidservant.
Nor his maidservant.
Nor his ox.
Nor his ox.
Nor his ass.
Nor his ass.
Nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Verse 18. And all the people saw the thundering.
And all the people saw the thundering.
And the lightning.
And the lightning.
And the noise of the trumpet.
And the noise of the trumpet.
And the mountain smoking.
And the mountain smoking.
And when the people saw it,
And when the people saw it,
they removed.
they removed.
And stood afar off.
And stood afar off.
Your eyes have not seen, and your ears have not heard the things he has in stores for those who love him. How do you love him?
Keep his commandments.
How do you love him?
Keep his commandments.
Amen.
Amen.
Once again, Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat shalom.
All right, if everyone can turn their Bibles to the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 3. And when you have to say Khan. Shem Yah Kohala, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yasharala. We're going to be reading from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 3. I'll be starting at verse 2. And Yeshua opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit.
Blessed are the poor in spirit.
For theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
For theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Blessed are they that mourn.
Blessed are they that mourn.
For they shall be comforted.
For they shall be comforted.
Blessed are the meek.
Blessed are the meek.
For they shall inherit the earth.
For they shall inherit the earth.
Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness.
Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness.
For they shall be filled.
For they shall be filled.
Blessed are the merciful.
Blessed are the merciful.
For they shall obtain mercy.
For they shall obtain mercy.
Blessed are the pure in heart.
Blessed are the pure in heart.
For they shall see AHRAYAH.
For they shall see AHRAYAH.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
For they shall be called the children of AHRAYAH.
For they shall be called the children of AHRAYAH.
Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake.
Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake.
For theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
For theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Blessed are ye,
Blessed are ye,
when men shall revile you,
when men shall revile you,
and persecute you,
and persecute you,
and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely,
and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely.
for my sake.
For my sake,
Rejoice,
rejoice,
and be exceeding glad.
and be exceeding glad.
For great is your reward in heaven.
For great is your reward in heaven.
For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you.
For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you.
Amen.
Amen.
Shalom, family.
Shalom.
Shem Yah, AHRAYAH, AHRAYAH, Ben Yahawada, Ben Yasharala. I'll be reading from Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments, which I teach you, for to do them, that ye may live, and go in and possess the land which the Lord God of your fathers giveth you. Ye shall not add unto word, which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. Your eyes have seen what the Lord did because Baal Peor, for all the men, turning the page, follow Baal Peor, the Lord thy God hath destroyed them from among you. And ye that did cleave unto the Lord your God are alive, every one of you this day. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this nation is a wise and a understanding people. For what nation is there so great, who have AHRAYAH so nigh unto them? As the Lord our God is in all things, we call upon him for. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat shalom.
Shem Yah, Aktawab, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yasharallah. I'm reading from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, starting at verse 8. And what nation is there so great that have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I have set before you this day? Verse 9. Only take heed to thyself, and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them thy sons, and thy sons' sons. Verse 10. Especially the day that thou stoodest before the Lord thy God in AHRAYAH, when the Lord said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. Verse 11. And ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of the heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. Verse 12. And the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard a voice. Verse 13. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments. And he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. Verse 14. And the Lord commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, and that ye might do them in the land whither ye go over to possess it. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shem Yah, Yasharallah, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yasharallah. Picking up at Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 15. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Most High spake unto you in Horeb, out of the midst of the fire, lest ye corrupt yourselves, and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flies in the air, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth, unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Most High thy power has divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But the Most High hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. Furthermore, the Most High was angry with me for your sakes, and sware that I should not go over Jordan, and that I should not go in that good land, which the Most High thy power gives thee for an inheritance. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat shalom.
Shem Yah, Corinthian, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yasharallah. I'll be picking up at Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 22. But I must die in this land. I must not go over Jordan, but ye shall go over and possess that good land. Take heed unto yourselves, lest ye forget the covenant of the Most High your power, which he made with you, and make you a graven image, or the likeness of anything, which the Most High thy power hath forbidden thee. For the Most High thy power is a consuming fire, even a jealous power. When thou shalt beget children, and children's children, and ye shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image, or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Most High thy power, to provoke him to anger. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto ye go over Jordan to possess it. Ye shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed. And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left in number among the heathen, whither the Most High shall lead you, and there ye shall serve gods and work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell among.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shem Yah, Ab George, Ban Yashra'Allah, Ban Yahawada. I'll be reading from Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 29. But if from thence thou shalt seek the Most High thy power, thou shalt find him. If thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul, when thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee, even in the latter days, if thou turn to the Most High thy power, and shalt be obedient unto his voice, for the Most High thy power is a merciful power. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers, which have swear unto them. For ask now of the days that are past, which were before thee, since the day that the Most High created man upon the earth, and ask from one side of the heaven unto the other, where there has been any such thing as this great thing is, or has been heard like it. Did ever people hear the voice of the Most High speaking out of the midst of the fire, as thou hast heard, and lived? Or hast thou God essayed to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation, by temptations, by signs, and by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that the Most High thy power did for you in Egypt before your eyes? Unto thee it was showed, that thou mightest know that the Most High, he is God. There is none else beside him. Come, Aman.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Akrasham, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yashra'Allah. Picking up at Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 36. Out of heaven he made thee hear his voice, that he might instruct thee, and upon earth he showed thee his great fire, and thou heardest his words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved thy fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them, and brought thee out in his sight with his mighty power out of Egypt, to drive out nations from before thee, greater and mightier than thou art, to bring thee in, to give thee their land for an inheritance, as it is this day. Know therefore this day, and consider it in thine heart, that the Lord, he is God in heaven above, and upon the earth beneath. There is none else. Thou shalt keep therefore his statutes and his commandments, which I command thee this day, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, and that thou mayest prolong thy days upon the earth, which Ahriah thy power giveth thee forever. Then Moses severed 3 cities on the side of Jordan towards the sun rising,
that the slayer might flee thither, which should kill his neighbors unaware, and hated him not in times past, and that fleeing unto one of these cities he might live. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, family. Shem Yah, Ak Jarel, Banya Hawada, Banya Sharala. I'll be reading out the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 43. Namely, Bezer in the wilderness, in the plain country of the Reubenites, and Ramoth in Gilead of the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan of the Manassites. And this is the law which Moses set before the children of Israel. These are the testimonies, and the statutes, and the judgments, which Moses spake unto the children of Israel, after they came forth out of Egypt, on this side Jordan, in the valley over against Beth Peor, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon, whom Moses and the children of Israel smote, after they were come forth out of Egypt. And they possessed his land, and the land of Og, king of Bashan, 2 kings of the Amorites, which were on this side Jordan, toward the sun rising, from AHRAYAH, which is by the bank of the river Arnon, even unto Mount Sion, which is Hermon, and all the plain on this side Jordan eastward, even unto the sea of the plain, under the springs of Pisgah. Amen.
Guess what? The Most High brought us here again to the house of prayer. Are you happy about it? Are you happy about it? You wouldn't be fooling me, would you? All right. This is our time that we've set aside to praise the name of AHRAYAH, Bahashem, Yeshaya. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. AHRAYAH, the God, our Father. Yeshaya, his Son. You know, the word says every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess Christ is Lord. And the wonderful Holy Spirit. We thank and praise the Most High for the AHRAYAH, which is all three. The first family. All right, let me do in our reading here. Psalm 126, I'm picking up at verse 2. It says, "Then was our mouths filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them." Verse 3, "The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad." Are you glad today? Hey, I'm sitting here thinking, if you're glad, what are you going to do about it? If you're glad about the Most High, what are you going to do about it? We're going to praise his name. We're going to speak well of him. We're going to say, "Father, we love you. You've done so much for us. You woke us up this morning. You started us on our way." Let me let that go. Because I tell you what, I get excited when you talk about the Most High. I get excited when you mention the Most High's name. I get excited. Sometimes I feel like I want to run around this place, but I'm not going to do it. Because most of y'all will be laughing at me anyway, so that's all right. Saying he going to fall or something. That's all right. But he has done great things for us. All right.
He has done Praise the Lord.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Let's give all praises to AHRAYAH. And of course, his son, Yeshaya, our Savior. So how's everybody? All right, so today's lesson, moving straight in, is the gods of the nations are idols, part 2. And everything you'll see goes hand in hand. We had a couple weeks ago, seek wisdom, right? Separating ourselves from the wisdom of the other gods, from the other religions, and from this world, and clinging on to the wisdom of our God, right? Then, of course, we had part 1 of this lesson. And then last week we had casting out serpents, learning more about the origins of these spirits, but also how they afflict us and how we could, fight against that, right? So all this goes in hand to hand with the gods of the nations are idols, part 2, and I believe Wally did part 1, right? Yep. So now we're finishing it. And if you can, sir, you can start us off with the intro commentary.
In part 1 of this lesson, we learned that there are many gods with many names, and we went into the primal origins of these gods. In part 2, we will continue to expound and give exposure to these same dynamics. We will also see more of Israel's perpetual disobedience and following after these pagan gods time and time again.
Right, and not just their one-stop shop with disobedience, not their let's try it out with disobedience, it's the perpetual disobedience. Go ahead.
It's important that we continue to identify these lesser gods and the worship, rituals, and practices associated with them so that we can make sure that we are not serving them, but serving the Most High only.
Right, and Elder Ricard's lesson today is right hand in hand. And when it says it's important that we continue to identify these lesser gods, because before we came into the knowledge of the truth, we thought this was fantasy, fairy tale. Right? Gods, what do you mean? Then as we started learning more, we realized, no, there are many gods according to Psalms in the Bible, right? And they are real. And they come with worship, rituals, and practices, ideologies. Like Elder gave the example, he said, I can't walk 2 blocks in a certain part of the neighborhood without oil being sprayed, rolled on me. He said, I don't know what God you prayed into that oil. So all these things come with rituals, with practices, with beliefs, right? So, starting from the beginning, when we became a nation, let's get Exodus chapter 23 and 20. And along with those beliefs, another good word for it is superstition, right? That superstition will keep you underneath that God.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 20. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared.
And right, remember, Proverbs tells us, I think it's chapter 2, he keeps the way of the righteous, and he's a buckler, meaning he's a shield to the righteous. And it says, I send an angel before thee. Elder goes in today how that angel is Christ. Go ahead.
Verse 21, beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him.
Right, that lets you know he will not pardon your transgressions, because why? Christ has the ability to judge. He has the power and the authority to judge. He is the Most High's word and will. Go ahead up.
Verse 22, but if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries. For mine angel shall go before thee.
And remember, in the Hebrew, in the Old Testament, shall go before thee. That's that military word, meaning the angel will go before you and fight for you, right? That angel is fighting that spiritual warfare to clear out the way for us. Go ahead, up.
For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee in unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them, and quite break down their images.
Right, and an image popped in my head. If you ever seen, what's the movie with Orlando Bloom? Kingdom of Heaven, right? The Christians, so-called, right? They're fighting to protect Jerusalem, so-called, because they're the rightful people. Anyway, they lose the battle to the Muslims. The Muslims, the first thing they came in, they took down all the crosses, and they put up the half moon, the crescent moon. They put up all their idols. So that's just what it is. It's power and making sure your God is known in the land. Right? Go ahead. Are we moving along to dropping down to verse 31? Same chapter.
Verse 31. And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea, even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and thou shalt drive them out before thee. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods.
Right, you should make no covenant with them. No allegiances. That's what that means. You're not going to go on their land and say, okay, who has the power here? Who has the influence? What network can I tap into? Right? Because they know the land. They know the people. They know how things work here. No. Because the Most High is sending us in those lands to establish the new order, the rightful order. Go ahead on.
Verse 33. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me.
Right. So if you keep them there, believe it or not, they're going to cause you to sin. They're not going to strap you down in a chair, right, and force you to say Allah. No, it doesn't work that way. But as we learned last week, these evil spirits work through what? Seduction. And of course, their worshipers are going to work the same way. They're going to influence. They're going to make it appealing. Hey, this wisdom, this God will give you this. It will give you that. Right? Go ahead on.
For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee.
It will be a trap. It will be death. A trap. I don't know of any trap. I don't know. It could be something, right? There's not too many traps out there that's intended to leave the animal alive. If there, I don't know, right? So just think about that one. It'll be a snare and it'll be a trap unto thee, keeping them here in the land and try to mix with them. So think about that as well. We're here in this foreign land called Babylon. America, right? Home of the brave, land of the free. We're in this land, and it's a snare unto us if we believe we could walk in this land and mix and mingle and be okay. We always got to have a spiritual guard on ourselves. Yeah, we got to deal with reality. I understand that. We have jobs, careers, businesses, things like that. We got to move and operate. But we have to have that spiritual filter. Always. We did it before in Babylon. For a generation. We did it before. We can do it again. Matter of fact, we have to. Right? So let's move along. A couple chapters over. Exodus chapter 32, verse 1. Now, everybody should know this story.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 32, verse 1. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount.
Now, key word, the people saw that Moses delayed. Where they saw delay, they saw opportunity. Go ahead up.
The people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him.
Think about the scenario, the seducing spirits, right? How many people does Aaron have to deal with in reality right now? 5, 10, 20, 100? Give or take about 500,000. That's gonna make any, like, okay, you guys got it. I'm one man, and I can't account for this Moses, my brother, you're right. So they called him at a weak moment, the seducing spirits. They said, and when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mountain, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron. You got a mob of 500,000 people. And said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. So these gods, they're the ones that's going to go before us and protect us in this wilderness. Because this whole situation, we don't know about this anymore. For as this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, where we freely ate cucumbers, where we freely ate fish, we freely ate melons, quote unquote, freely. He brought us into this wilderness, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know what has become of him. So let's get verse 2.
Verse 2, and Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings, which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings, which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron.
All right, so Aaron folded. He folded under the pressure. And mind you, remember Aaron's role in this whole situation so far. Aaron is the mouthpiece. So he has a little bit of clout too. He has a little bit of justification in this too. In a weird, sinful kind of way, right? So that, hey, Aaron, you power's working with you too. Matter of fact, we hear you. How often did Moses speak compared to Aaron? How often did he speak compared to Moses? I mean, you know what I'm trying to say, right? How often did Moses speak compared to Aaron? So now these seducing spirits, all this pressure from 500,000 people, and him knowing that, yeah, you know, I am the mouthpiece, you know. All these things, all this seduction is going on right now, and about to move the masses away from our God. Go ahead up.
Verse 4, And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graven tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
Right, because they refused to believe that it was the God of their fathers that brought them out of Egypt. Because right now they're wavering, okay? Moses said this was our God, but Moses left and we don't know where he's at. We have proof. We could see with this God. We saw how he moved and operated in Egypt. We saw the blessings of the Egyptians, what have you, right? Go ahead up.
Verse 5, And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made proclamation and said, Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord.
Now see the madness? Now he's proclaiming a feast to this Lord, so-called. And remember, hey, Lord in Hebrew means master. This is our master. We're servants of this master, of this golden calf. This power is what brought us out. And we're going to proclaim a feast to him tomorrow. Go ahead up.
Verse 6, And they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink, and rose up to play.
Right, and rose up to play. What does play look like? We're going to see it. I think it's this weekend or next weekend with Lollapalooza. That's what play looks like. Right? Nothing righteous about it. Go ahead on.
Verse 7, And the Lord said unto Moses, Go, get thee down, for thy people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves.
Now we see what corruption looks like. Now we see how we can corrupt ourselves. Go ahead.
Verse 8, They have turned aside quickly.
Quickly. They have turned aside quickly. Like what happened? It was just, they just walked through a whole sea. But quickly they removed. Brimstone, fire came down, darkness that we couldn't even speak of. The firstborn, it was so much death, we just read about it last week, so much death that it wasn't enough people alive to bury the dead. But yet they were like, hey, we don't know where Moses is at. Go ahead.
They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people.
It is a stiff-necked people, a stubborn people. Stiff-necked and stubborn. Go ahead.
Verse 10, Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them.
Right, this is now, hey, and the Most High, remember, he's a righteous judge. So it's not like he's just making a knee-jerk reaction here. Go ahead, on.
And that I may consume them.
And consume. Not plead with them, not, hey, let's talk about it. Consume. Go ahead.
And I will make of thee a great nation.
Right, remember we talked about it last week, how, hey, the Most High said he wanted to make a whole other nation just out of Moses. Like, all right, let's wipe the slate clean, let's just start over. Go ahead.
Verse 11, And Moses besought the Lord his God, and said,
And remember, we read about this in the Wisdom of Solomon in the 18th chapter. Now we're seeing what Moses said. Remember, we just read, like, it was just a couple verses on it. Like, yeah, like how, hey, he stayed with the word, he stayed off the wrath, right? Now we're seeing what that word was. Go ahead, on.
And Moses besought the Lord his God, and said, Lord, why doth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power, and with a mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, For mischief did he bring them out, to slay them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from thy fierce wrath, and repent of this evil against thy people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servants, to whom thou swerest by thine own self, and sayest unto them, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. And the Lord repented of the evil which he had thought to do unto his people. And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides. On the one side and on the other were they written.
So let's keep this in your notes, right? And just read the rest of the chapter out, because we have a lot of reading in this lesson. And let's just get the commentary. So remember in your notes, just read the chapter out.
After the exodus from Egypt, the Most High commanded the children of Israel explicitly on several occasions not to worship the gods of the Egyptians.
Right, explicitly. Meaning there was nothing left for debate. No, like, wait, hey, did you catch what he said? No, it was explicitly. Go ahead, on.
Before Israel entered into Canaan, the Most High also commanded them not to worship the gods that were being worshipped in Canaan. This commandment was given to Moses by the Most High to relate to the children of Israel. However, with Moses being absent for a time and his whereabouts unaccounted for, the Israelites then purposed themselves to make golden idols to be masters over them.
So picture this. The Most High is preparing this commandment to be relayed to the people. And the commandment is simple. Moses, tell the people not to serve the gods that's being served in the land of Canaan. However, cross-cut, right? At the same time, you got the people creating a mob telling Aaron, hey, give us some gods to serve. From Egypt, matter of fact. So the Most High is setting the stage so Israel can move forward, but in reality, in real time, they're moving backwards. Right? Go ahead, on.
This would be a common theme with Israel throughout history. But is this one of the first instances of mankind disobeying the Most High and worshiping other gods, as some may believe? Let's take a look at the very beginning of creation to see.
And think about it. We got to look at the beginning creation, because it's easy for anybody to just say, well, that's the Bible, That doesn't apply to me because I choose not to believe what's going on in there. So it doesn't matter what those stories talk about, because I don't believe it anyway. Well, let's look at the beginning of creation, right? And see how mankind operated. and how swiftly mankind went away from their God. So we're going to go to the book of Jasher, chapter 2, verse 1.
This is the book of Jasher, chapter 2, verses 1 through 9. And it was in the 130th year of the life of Adam upon the earth that he again knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare a son in his likeness and in his image. And she called his name Seth, saying, Because God has appointed me another seed in the place of Abel, for Cain has slain him. Verse 2. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begat a son. And Seth called the name of his son Enosh, saying, Because in that time the sons of men began to multiply, and to afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against the Most High.
Now check that out. The first command was be fruitful and multiply. So yeah, they being fruitful, they multiplying, but at the same time they're going against the Creator. As man continues to multiply and inhabit the earth, more and more sin is entering the earth. Go ahead,
Verse 3. And it was in the days of Enosh that the sons of men continued to rebel and transgress against the Most High, to increase the anger of the Lord against the sons of men. And the sons of men went and they served other gods, and they forgot the Lord who had created them in the earth.
And that's why the first quarter of the lesson last week helps us to understand, like, okay, there were other gods present, the fallen ones. Because how is it only in the 105th year, or, we talking about what, 200 years of human existence right now. They already got other gods to serve. How is this possible? We read about it last week. Go ahead on.
And in those days the sons of men made images of brass and iron, wood and stone, and they bowed down and served them. And every man made his god, and they bowed down to them. And the sons of men forsook the Lord all the days of Enosh and his children. And the anger of the Lord was kindled on account of their works and abominations which they did in the earth.
Right, and the elders today bring out Wisdom of Solomon, right, the 14th chapter. And it's talking about, hey, man fashions these guys. And Elder made a great point, like, hey, in order for these guys to be worshipped in the first place, in order for them to even exist in the earth, man has to create them. So if we just stopped or never started, where would they come from? They have no life. Where would these idols have come from in the first place? Man, that shows man could have just stopped it, or better yet, never even allowed it to happen in the first place. Right? Go ahead on.
Verse 6. And the Lord caused the waters of the river Gihon to overwhelm them. And he destroyed and consumed them. And he destroyed the third part of the earth. And notwithstanding this, the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways. And their hands were yet extended to do evil in the sight of the Lord.
And doesn't that sound like today? We're on the brink of World War III, so-called, whatever, right? All this destruction. The world is waiting to see who's going to press the button first. But hey, where's the party? People getting shipped. Hey, where's the party? Elder Ramar brought up on Blog Talk the other day. They have facial recognition like some Born Supremacy movie where they take your, no need for a passport, just look, right? Hey, where's the party? A third part of the earth was destroyed, but where's the party? Go ahead on.
Verse 7. And in those days there was neither sowing nor reaping in the earth, and there was no food for the sons of men, and the famine was very great in those days. And the seed which they sowed in those days in the ground became thorns, thistles, and briars.
Right, and they tried to show this in, what was that Noah movie? Remember the beginning? You got Russell Crowe trying to, he got some dirt everywhere. He's trying to, and he see a little green thing springing up. That's where they're getting this from, right? Go ahead on.
For from the days of Adam was this declaration concerning the earth, of the curse of the Most High, which he cursed the earth on account of the sin which Adam sinned before the Lord. And it was when men continued to rebel and transgress against the Most High, and to corrupt their ways, that the earth also became corrupt.
Right. Now you'll think instead of trying to master the Encyclopedia Britannica about man's existence, right? This is the beginning of man we need to master. How our sin, our rebellion brought corruption on the earth, right? So moving along, let's get a story about our father Abraham. We're going to chapter 11, verse 13. It's a lot of reading here, so once again, just keep this in your notes. We're going to just read a little bit here.
Verse 13. And in the 50th year of the life of Abram, the son of Terah, Abram came forth from the house of Noah and went to his father's house. Verse 14. And Abram knew the Lord, and he went in his ways and instructions, and the Lord his God was with him. Verse 15. And Terah, his father, was in those days still captain of the host of King Nimrod, and he still followed strange gods.
Now check this out. Abraham, our father, is the son of a high priest of Nimrod, right? See how the Most High works? It's not like Terah was just, regular Joe Schmo, just struggling in the, a peasant trying to struggle. No, he had high influence. Go ahead, on.
Verse 16. And Abram came to his father's house and saw 12 gods standing there in their temples. And the anger of Abram was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. And Abram said, As the Lord liveth, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall the Lord who created me do unto me, if in 3 days' time I do not break them all. And Abram went from them, and his anger burned within him. And Abram hastened and went from the chamber to his father's outer court. And he found his father sitting in the court, and all his servants with him. And Abram came and sat before him. Verse 19. And Abram asked his father, saying, Father, tell me where is God who created heaven and earth?
Right, so a logical question, just like, hey, tell me, who was Jesus praying to in the Mount of Olives? Real simple question, right? It's simple questions like this that just breaks down the fabric of reality, but it'll lead us to truth. So he's asking his father, tell me, where is God who created heaven and earth? Go ahead, up.
And all the sons of men upon earth, and who created thee and me?
Right, who created you and who created me? Father, let's get to the bottom of this. Go ahead.
And Terah answered his son Abram and said, Behold, those who created us are all with us in the house.
But who created them, Father? Who created them? Who created the wood that you had to use to make them? Go ahead, up.
Verse 20. And Abram said to his father, My Lord, show them to me, I pray thee. And Terah brought Abram into the chamber of the inner court. And Abram saw, and behold, the whole room was full of gods of wood and stone, 12 great images, and others less than they, without number. Verse 21. And Terah said to his son, Behold, these are they which made all thou seest upon earth, and which created me and thee and all mankind. And Terah bowed down to his gods, and he then went away from them, and Abram his son went away with him. Verse 23. And when Abram had gone from them, he went to his mother and sat before her. And he said to his mother, Behold, my father has shown me those who made heaven and earth, and all the sons of men.
Right, so let's skip down. Abram, at this point, he destroys the idols and things like that, right? So let's drop down to verse 50. Or actually, verse 49.
Verse 49. And Abram hastened and sprang from before his father, and took the hatchet from his father's largest idol.
And check that out. That hatchet in the idol's hand was supposed to represent his power and his might. Right? If you see an idol with a sword, you're going to represent, hey, this must be a god of war, of power, and might. But guess what? His father had to fashion and mold that idol in a way to make sure the hatchet still stays. Do you get that? So he's not holding the hatchet himself. To show you just, hey, the madness that comes with this. Go ahead up.
And Abram hasted and sprang from before his father, and took the hatchet from his father's largest idol, with which Abram broke it and ran away. And Terah, seeing all that Abram had done, hastened to go from his house, and he went to the king. And he came before Nimrod and stood before him. And he bowed down to the king, and the king said, What dost thou want?
Right, now check, this is so deep. So this shows you how connected the worshiping of these gods and idols were to the stability of the kingdom. So the belief system of the kingdom has to be established and maintained for the kingdom to keep going forward. Go ahead on.
Verse 51, and he said, I beseech thee, my Lord, to hear me. Now 50 years back, a child was born to me.
Right, he's going through this preamble because he's realizing, I brought this hellspawn into earth, King Nimrod, who's going to destroy our nation. Go ahead.
And thus has he done to my gods, and thus has he spoken. And now therefore, my Lord and King, send for him, that he may come before thee, and judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil.
Right, because in in Terah's eyes, he's like, hey, if we let my son breathe another breath, we don't know what's going to happen. Our kingdom is in utter peril because my son is breathing right now. Go ahead on. And so judge him according to the law. Keep that in mind. Judge my son according to the law. Go ahead on.
Verse 53, and the king said to Abram, What is this that thou hast done to thy father and to his gods? And Abram answered the king in the words that he spoke to his father, and he said, The large God that was with them in the house did to them what thou hast heard. And the king said to Abram,
Right, and you see, Abram is setting them up right here. And it's just common sense how he's setting them up. The old, wise, mighty hunter king. Go ahead.
And the king said to Abram, Have they power to speak and eat and do as thou hast said?
Like, Abram, come on, let's get serious. They're statues. Go ahead.
And Abram answered the king, saying, And if there be no power in them, why dost thou serve them, and cause the sons of men to err through thy follies? Verse 55, Dost thou imagine that they can deliver thee, or do anything small or great, that thou shouldest serve them? And why would thou not sense the God of the whole universe, who created thee, and in whose power it is to kill and keep alive? O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto thee forever. Verse 57, I thought thou wouldest teach thy servants the upright way, but thou hast not done this, but hast filled the whole earth with thy sins, and the sins of thy people who have followed thy ways.
Right, because at this time, remember Nimrod, he was the mighty hunter before the earth, and he had the sway and the power over mankind at this time. So he was directing mankind and teaching man on how to rebel against God. Go ahead.
Verse 58, Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that this evil which thou doest, our ancestors sinned therein in days of old?
Right, so he's referring to what we just read. In the days of Noah, or more so in the days of Enosh, right? When a third part of the earth got destroyed, and mind you, that's before the flood. Go ahead up.
And the eternal God brought the waters of the flood upon them, and destroyed them all, and also destroyed the whole earth on their account. And wilt thou and thy people rise up now, and do like unto this work, in order to bring down the anger of the Lord God of the universe, and to bring evil upon thee and the whole earth?
Right, so let's just think about, I don't know, let's just throw something out there that we all can agree on that happened in history. Columbus so-called coming over here, right? 1492. That's not too long ago, right? We know that's real, it happened. That's how the flood was for these people. And they all know the reason for the flood. However, hey, They still want to serve other gods and rebel against the God who caused the flood. Go ahead.
Verse 59. Now therefore put away this evil deed which thou doest, and serve the God of the universe, as thy soul is in his hands, and then it will be well with thee. And if thy wicked heart will not hearken to my words, to cause thee to forsake thy evil ways, and to serve the eternal God, then wilt thou die in shame in the latter days, thou, thy people, and all who are connected with thee, hearing thy words or walking in thy evil ways.
Right, and this man, this great man, so-called, did die a shameful death. Him and his men, slaughtered by one guy. Didn't even have a proper burial. Got his head cut off and his robe stolen. Go ahead, on.
Verse 61. And when Abram had ceased speaking before the king and princes, Abram lifted up his eyes to the heavens, and he said, the Lord seeth all the wicked, and he will judge them.
Right. And that's deeply said, speaking before the king and the princes. Right? So everybody who was in power at that time. So let's get the commentary.
After Adam and Eve had their third son, mankind began to rebel against the Most High, to serve other gods and make idols. So from the beginning of creation, idolatry and the serving of lesser gods was prevalent and was known as a transgression. We see that this commandment was not something that started with Moses, but was understood from the very beginning of time. The sins of Adam and Eve started a ripple effect and a snowball of degradation in the earth that has only waxed worse and worse up until our present day.
Right, and think about it that way. The sins of Adam and Eve, that malignant root. So if that malignant root just remains unchecked, that's what happens. Go ahead, on.
The Most High's law was passed down through the lineage of Adam, from Seth, all the way to Noah, whom then taught Abraham. But even after the great judgment that came with the deluge, we see that mankind went right back to serving the lesser gods after the flood, during the time of Nimrod. Because of Abraham's commitment to serving the Most High only, the covenant was made with him, and 100 of years later, this covenant is what Moses was teaching the children of Israel after the Exodus from Egypt.
So moving along, let's get some stories about different gods. Some of these gods that survived just got worshipped under different names, right? Because we know Babylon got destroyed, the Tower of Babel got destroyed, and the people went off their own separate ways, serving their different gods, right? So let's get Judges chapter 10, verse 6.
This is the book of Judges, chapter 10, verse 6. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim and Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Zidon, and the gods of Moab, and the gods of the children of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines, and forsook the Lord, and served him not, and served not him. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the children of Ammon. Dropping down to verse 10. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, saying, we have sinned against thee, both because we have forsaken our God, and also served Baalim. And the Lord said unto the children of Israel, did not I deliver you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines? Verse 12, the Zidonians also, and the Amalekites, and the Moabites did oppress you, and ye cried to me, and I delivered you out of their hand.
Right. And key word, cry. Just like even our personal lives, it gets to a point where we got to cry unto the Most High. And it gets to a point as a nation, we got to cry unto our God. All right, go ahead, on.
Verse 13. Yet ye have forsaken me, and served other gods. Wherefore I will deliver you no more.
And that just shows you the mindset. It's not like, we just didn't know. And it's not like we just weren't in our land and, 18 generations removed, whatever, what have you. No, we knew who we were, and we knew what we were supposed to be doing. So that just shows you the backward mindset. Like, well, we're going to try this. Oh, let's come back. Well, we're going to try this. Oh, let's come back. We're going to try this. That didn't work. Let's come back. Perpetual. Right? Go ahead on.
Verse 14. Go and cry unto the gods, which ye have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your tribulation.
Right, which you have chosen. Go ahead on.
Verse 15. And the children of Israel said unto the Lord, we have sinned. Do thou unto us whatsoever seemeth good unto thee. Deliver us only, we pray thee, this day. And they put away the strange gods from among them, and served the Lord, and his soul was grieved for the misery of Israel.
Right. So showing the Most High's mercy is showing that his soul was grieved for the misery of Israel. So another famous story about King Solomon. Let's get 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1.
This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women.
Right, and not just he fancied them or had an affection for or was infatuated by them. He loved them. Right? He loved them. He loved many strange women. Go ahead on.
Together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites.
Every ite that we're supposed to stay away from. Right? Go ahead on.
Verse 2. Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love.
Right. Love, that lust, right? That seductive spirit. So he knew the law. He knew what was not supposed to happen. But through that seduction, he chose otherwise. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines.
So, read that again.
And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart.
Now, to not even say the obvious on this, but you just got to think that his mind and his heart is being torn 1,000 different ways. So now you can see why, hey, there's no stability in this at all. None at all. And it's like when you read something like this, it almost sounds like fairy tale. Like, how can someone have 1,000 women? But with the seduction, that seducing spirit, and just adding on more and more and more, this is how you end up with an Ecclesiastes. All is vanity. All is vanity and vexation. Because he wrote that at his later years, when hindsight is 20/20. Right? Go ahead on.
Verse 4. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Melcham, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Moloch, the abomination of the children of Ammon.
Right, so you can read the rest of that chapter, it's real good. So let's get some of these guys, right?
Chemosh. Chemosh was the national deity of the Moabites, whose name most likely meant destroyer, subduer, or fish god.
Right, and notice it says the national deity. So that lets you know, like, hey, a nation has a God over it. A nation is all unified under one belief, right? That's important. Go ahead, Art.
While he is most readily associated with the Moabites, according to Judges 11 and chapter 11, verse 24, he seems to have been the national deity of the Ammonites as well.
Right, they're brothers, Moab and Ammon. Go ahead.
His presence in the Old Testament world was well known, as his cult was imported to Jerusalem by King Solomon.
And that's what scholars do. They use words like cult, right, to downplay it, like, oh, well, these are some fanatical group of people, right? No, it was a real thing, a real God, a real demon with real practices, right? Go ahead, on.
The Hebrew scorn for his worship was evident in a curse from the scriptures.
And mind you, and what you get a lot today in modern times is like, oh, well, that just shows, how silly man was. They worship the sea and they worship the wind. They worship the destroyer. That just shows you primitive man. But no, this stuff is real. Real gods, real demons, real practices, right? Go ahead, on.
The Hebrew scorn for his worship was evident in a curse from the scriptures, the abomination of Moab.
Let's drop down to Chemosh.
Chemosh seems to have also had a taste for blood.
Right. So if this is a cult, this is just some fanatical people, hey, we need to look into this because their God that they're fanatical about has a taste for blood. Go ahead, up.
In 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 27, we find that human sacrifice was part of the rites of Chemosh.
And once again, we'll just label it as, since we're so sophisticated today in modern times, that just show you lower-minded primitive man where they were just so beast-like, and they sacrificed people. No, this is a real God that required the blood of people. A real demon that required the blood of people. Go ahead, on.
This practice, while gruesome, was certainly not unique to the Moabites, as such rites were commonplace in the various Canaanite religious cults, including those of the Baals and Moloch.
And this is business as usual. This is every day. Hey, this is a Tuesday. It's not like it was hidden, at all. So let's go to Moloch.
Moloch, or also Molech, Milcom, or Malcolm.
Right, because we read Milcom, right? So Milcom and Moloch is the same person, or same God, same demon.
Is the biblical name of a Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice.
Right, child sacrifice. This one is important. Child sacrifice. Not just any blood, not just any sacrifice, child sacrifice. An elder always goes in about the power that they receive from sacrificing the innocent and helpless. Go ahead, on.
Through fire or war. Rabbinical tradition depicted Moloch as a bronze statue heated with fire into which the victims were thrown. This has been associated with reports by Greco-Roman authors on the child sacrifice in Carthage to Baal Hammon.
Right, and what they would do is you'll have the statue of the bull, what have you, and it's basically just one big frying pan. They'll throw the person in there, or in this case, they'll throw the child in there, and it's so hot that the child dies, and also it's so sick, right, is you'll hear the screams, right? So it'll sound like that animal is making its noise, it's roaring, right? Because they created these things to make sure it's amplified. That's how sick this is. Go ahead, up.
Especially since archaeological excavations since the 1920s have produced evidence for child sacrifice in Carthage, as well as inscriptions including the term MLK, either a theonym or a technical term associated with sacrifice. The Phoenician god was identified with Cronus due to the parallel mytheme of Cronus devouring his children.
Right, Kronos was, one of the Greek gods who ate his children, right? Father of Zeus, the whole nine, right? So let's get the commentary.
Having the inheritance, land and oracles of the Most High, still did not keep the children of Israel from worshiping and serving the gods of the Gentiles. This is something that we must pay very close attention to in the time of our awakening, that just because we have the truth doesn't mean that we can't become victims and fall away from the Most High in similar fashion, like how our ancestors did.
Right, because all it takes is what? We read about in the law, Deuteronomy 13, a suggestion. That's all it takes. All it takes is a suggestion. Now leave it up to you. Hey, you can see it if you want. You come with me if you want. Here's the link to the book. You can read it if you want. This is what it's done for me. I don't want to force anything on you, but this is what I applied to my life, and now I'm here. And these are real conversations that I've had with people. All right, no, I'm good. All right, go ahead.
And it is not just the commandments of idolatry and serving other gods that we must give obedience to, but we must be in compliance with all the commandments that the Most High has given us. Solomon's disobedience in regards to marrying Gentile women opened the door and led him to worshiping the Gentile gods. And because Solomon did not keep the covenant of his fathers, the Most High gave his kingdom to the Gentiles, thus beginning the split of Israel, leaving us in the captive, oppressive state that we have experienced from then up until our present day.
So based on what we just read, did Solomon lose his way when he lit that incense? Is that when it happened? Let's get that one, says. Nope. Solomon lost his way when he looked at the woman and didn't look away. Because looking at the woman and not looking away, he began to commit it in his heart and started to formulate the plans, and the lust started to build up inside of him. And he knew what his God said, but he kept looking. That's when he lost his way. And he said, you know what? I looked, I fulfilled, and I'm still breathing. So let me do it 999 more times. But that's human nature. I'm still breathing. I know what God says. However, this looks more beneficial to me right now. I'm thinking these thoughts. I'm still not dead. Oh, I did it. I'm still not dead. So let me do it 9 more times. Now we're at 10. Let me do it 10 more times. Now we're at 20. So on and so forth. Now he did it 999 more times, just like Solomon. Whatever the sin is that's against our God. See how it works? With the seduction, the overruling spirit that overtakes you to be disobedient, right? That's what it's all about. Because you'll see it in the person, like, hey, you can do it if you want. It's on you. You can look at the video if you want. And you say, well, I know I'm not supposed to, but he looks very relaxed, and it must not be too threatening. And plus, it's not a sin to look at a video, right? That's how it works. Let's get it, Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 3.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, verse 3. And he put forth the form of an hand, and took me by a lock of mine head. And the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me in the visions of the Most High to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain.
Now check that out. Where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh the jealousy? See how the Most High, you gotta love it when he gives the prophets different aspects about his character. And they get a different understanding on how to describe what they're seeing and how to describe the power that they're seeing. Right? Go ahead up.
Verse 5. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. Verse 6. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do, even the great abomination that the house of Israel committed here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary, but turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations.
All right, so let's drop down to verse 14.
Verse 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these.
And elder, this is one of the first things we learn coming to the truth with this scripture right here, related to modern day Christianity even. How emotional, right, it is when you enter that in that temple. That's what it is. It's a pagan temple. The music is playing. The person next to you starts crying. So now you want to hug them, right? That's how it goes. It just moves from person to person, right? People start holding hands, and somebody gets up and tells a story. It's all these things. It plays into it, right? If you can imagine, the spirit just going through people. It no longer becomes a house of prayer, right? And a pillar of truth like the church is supposed to be. It becomes a pagan temple weeping for Tammuz. Go ahead on.
Verse 16. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men.
Right, so now it's going to the men, right? Go ahead on.
With their backs toward the temple of the Lord.
Right, and why is that so important? Because which way we supposed to be facing? Towards the temple. It don't matter what direction. We could be in Alaska or wherever, right? Just we supposed to be facing the temple. Go ahead on.
And their faces toward the east. And they worship the sun toward the east.
Right. So mind you, it's not, because we pray to the east because we're facing Jerusalem, right? If we was in China, we'd be facing the west. Everybody understand that, right? But these folks right here, they're deliberately praying to the east, praying towards the sun. Go ahead on. With their backs to the temple. Go ahead on.
Verse 17. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here?
So let's get some of these guys, right?
Demuzit, later known by the alternate form Tammuz, is an ancient Mesopotamian god associated with shepherds, who was also the primary consort of the goddess Inanna, later known as Ishtar. In Sumerian mythology, Demuzit's sister was Geshtinana, the goddess of agriculture, fertility, and dream interpretation.
Right, and dream interpretation. Right? The goddess of agriculture, fertility, and dream interpretation. Go ahead on.
In the Sumerian king list, Demuzit is listed as an antediluvian king of the city of Bad Tabira.
Right, antediluvian, before the flood.
and also an early king of the city of Uruk. In addition to being the god of shepherds, Dumuzi was also an agricultural deity associated with growth of plants.
Right, so you see how, I mean, it just seems so simple and innocent, you know. Let's go out to the beach and find some seashells, or let's go and, you know, in harvest time and, you know, plant some things. No, it's attached to some God. It's not just some random activity that sounds nice, that sounds like a family activity, right? It's attached to a God. So, let's get some more famous ones that we kind of know in the Western world. Let's get Acts chapter 19 and 21.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 19, verse 21. After these things were ended, Paul purposed in the Spirit, when he had passed through Macedonia and Achaia, to go to Jerusalem, saying, after I have been there, I must also see Rome. So he sent into Macedonia 2 of them that ministered unto him, Timotheus, and Erastus. But he himself stayed in Asia for a season.
And I believe, I got a fact check, I believe this is the same Timothy with the book of Timothy. Because he has some men that he went with have same names, right? Go ahead on.
Verse 23, and the same time there arose no small stir about that way. For a certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith, which made silver shrines for Diana, brought no small gain unto the craftsmen, whom he called together with the workmen of like occupation, and said, Sirs, ye know that by this craft we have our wealth.
Right, so he's, you know, they're having a labor dispute, a union dispute right now, because this new gospel is entering the city, and he's saying, hey, we're a city of blacksmiths, and this is how we make our money. Our economy is based on this, by making shrines and idols for Diana. But because of this gospel that's entering our city right now, it's going to blow us. We're going to lose out. Go ahead on.
Verse 26. Moreover, ye see and hear that not alone at Ephesus, but almost throughout all Asia, this Paul has persuaded and turned away much people, saying that they be no gods, which are made with hands.
Right, and Ephesus is the key city. Ephesus is like New York, right? The city that everybody thinks of. New York or LA. So in Asia or Greece, Ephesus is the key city. So he's like, hey, not only here, but just the whole society has been affected by this man Paul. Go ahead.
Verse 27. So that not only this our craft is in danger to be set at naught, but also that the temple of the great goddess Diana should be despised.
Now, wisdom will tell you, if you guys are great with your hands, you can make something else. So it's deeper than that. That's just a throwaway line. It's like you guys are so embedded with this worship. Go ahead up.
And her magnificence should be destroyed.
Right, now it's coming out. Like, hey, the temple, hey, she's being despised. Her magnificence should be destroyed. Right? Go ahead up.
Whom all Asia and the world worshipeth. Verse 28. And when they heard these sayings, they were full of wrath, and cried out, saying, Great is Diana of the Ephesians. And the whole city was filled with confusion. And having caught Gaius and Aristarchus, men of Macedonia, Paul's companions in travel, they rushed with one accord into the theater. And when Paul would have entered in unto the people, the disciples suffered him not. And certain of the chief of Asia, which were his friends, sent unto him, desiring him that he would not adventure himself into the theater. Verse 32. Some therefore cried one thing, and some another, for the assembly was confused, and the more part knew not wherefore they were come together.
Right, so let's kind of see what's going on here. So remember, Ephesus is a major city, not some small village, right? And 29 says the whole city was filled with confusion. So it's a public uproar. And having caught Gaius and Aristarchus, men of Macedonia, Paul's companions in travel, they rushed with one accord into the theater. What's the theater? We got one. It's a stadium. They in Soldier Field, a packed house. It's a coliseum. It's an amphitheater. That's where the plays and announcements were. So it's made, where it's like a half circle shape, and those are made for the acoustics. However, the main point is these things were made to seat large amounts of people, not just some small group. So the whole city is being stirred up right now. Go ahead on.
Verse 32, some therefore cried one thing, and some another. For the assembly was confused, and the more part knew not wherefore they were come together. Verse 33.
Right, so it was so much ruckus, people were just there and they don't even know why they're there. Hey, the crowd is here, right? And then that's even in our law, not to just be followers of the crowd. I think it's in Leviticus, right? Go ahead up.
Verse 33. And they drew Alexander out of the multitude, the Jews putting him forward. And Alexander beckoned with the hand, and would have made his defense unto the people. But when they knew that he was a Jew, all with one voice about the space of 2 hours cried out, Great is Diana of the Ephesians.
Now check that out. When they knew he was a Jew, and not just Jew like of race, but because mind you, think about what they're contending with. Jew of belief system, culture, against Diana. Right, go ahead up.
Verse 35. And when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, Ye men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is a worshiper of the great goddess Diana, and of the image which fell down from Jupiter?
Right, from Jupiter. So we're going to get Jupiter too. And if any of you all saw the Academy a couple weeks ago, you know about Jupiter. So let's get Diana.
Diana is a Roman goddess of the hunt.
Of the hunt. Mm-hmm.
The moon, and nature, associated with wild animals and woodland. She is equated with the Greek goddess Artemis, and absorbed much of Artemis mythology early in Roman history, including a birth on the island of Delos to parents Jupiter and Latana, and a twin brother Apollo, though she had an independent origin in Italy. Diana was known as the virgin goddess of childbirth and women.
Right. So here we go.
From
Diana, the goddess, the virgin goddess of childbirth and women. Because it is, nothing against, childbirth, of course, and nothing against natural childbirth, of course. We're just coming late. We're late to the party with natural childbirth here. But if you notice, most of the people that deal with natural childbirth are into some hippie woo-woo stuff. This is why. Go ahead, on.
Diana was known as the virgin goddess of childbirth and women. From the medieval to the modern period, as folklore attached to her developed and was eventually adapted into neo-pagan religions, the mythology surrounding Diana grew to include a consort, Lucifer, and daughter, AHRAYAH. Figures sometimes recognized by modern traditions.
Mm-hmm. So let's get Jupiter.
Jupiter, thus Sky Father, also known as Hovi, is the god of the sky and thunder, and king of the gods in ancient Roman religion and mythology.
Right. So Sky Father. Because he can't go no further than the sky. The sky is his barrier. He's the man who learned how to turn his prison into his empire. Also known as Jovi or Hova, right? Is the God of the sky, Prince of the air, and thunder, and King of the gods in ancient Roman religion and mythology. If this stuff just don't line up once we just start reading it, it's like, come on now. Go ahead on.
Jupiter was the chief deity of Roman state religion throughout the Republican and imperial eras.
Right, so I'll just say it straight out. Elder Ricard showed that how Jupiter relates straight to Jehovah. Just showing the translations throughout time. Satan, the devil, is the chief deity of Roman state religion. Go ahead, on.
Jupiter was the chief deity of Roman state religion throughout the Republican and imperial eras.
And you can't make this stuff up what we're about to read. Go ahead, on.
Until Christianity became the dominant religion of the empire. In Roman mythology, he negotiates with Numa Pompilius, the second king of Rome, to establish principles of Roman religion such as offering or sacrifice. Jupiter is usually thought to have originated as an aerial god. His identifying implement is the thunderbolt.
Right. You identify this man with the thunderbolt. Right? Go ahead, up.
And his primary sacred animal is the eagle.
You can't make this up. You can't. Zeus, thunder, eagle. Jupiter, thunder, eagle. America, eagle. Everywhere. How is it that the eagle is the national animal for America? Like, what does that have to do with anything? The American bald eagle. Right? When you think of America, you think of the eagle, the American bald eagle. Right? What? Why? America, this is a large land with a lot of animals and all kind of stuff. Anyone could got picked. Go ahead, on.
His identifying implement is the thunderbolt, and his primary sacred animal is the eagle, which held precedence over other birds in the taking of auspices and became one of the most common symbols of the Roman army.
It's a movie called The Eagle. Right? With Channing Tatum. He's a part of a Roman auxiliary. You know, they left behind, so they gotta still fight and survive and scrap. But their main goal is to defend and steal the eagle. Right? Because that's the symbol for everything, the eagle. Satan's pet. Go ahead, let's get the commentary.
From one abomination to the next, time and time again, Israel has sought out to do evil, filthiness in the sight of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
We oftentimes do what we want to do, thinking that nobody will know and that it is being done in the dark. However, the eyes of the Most High are always watching and recording the wicked things that we do.
Right, and we know that the eyes of the Most High are his angels. Just like, hey, we'll you know, your boss might say, I need you to be my eyes and ears out there in the field for me, right? We know that. It's common. Go ahead, on.
We become hell-bent on our lust and serving the God that we want to serve, all the while questioning why we are so cursed and still not being able to connect the dots to the fact that our plight is because of our disobedience.
Right, but hey, if we don't know we're being disobedient, if disobedience is thought to be normal behavior, and if we don't know who we're being disobedient to, hey, that's the issue right there. Go ahead, on.
And this is the reason why Samuel told Saul that stubbornness is the same as idolatry. Because one way or another, in our stubborn ways against the Most High's ways, we are serving another God.
Right, so in your notes, you can read 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 1, reading about Dionysus and Bacchus, right? And mind you, the Dionysus and Bacchus, well, let's just read about this guy, right? Dionysus. But read 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verses 1 through 7. So let's read about him, though.
Dionysus, or Dionysos, is the god of the grape harvest, wine making and wine, of fertility, ritual madness, religious ecstasy, and theater in ancient Greek religion. He is also known as Bacchus, the name adopted by the Romans, and the frenzy he induces is Bacchaea.
Right, so he's the one who's over just ecstasy, right, and unrestrained. Go ahead.
His thyrsus, sometimes wound with ivy and dripping with honey, is both a beneficent wand and a weapon used to destroy those who oppose his cult and the freedoms he represents.
The freedoms he represents. Lollapalooza. There's a lot of freedom going on there. Go ahead up.
As Eleutheros, the liberator.
The liberator. We must be liberated. We got to be liberated by the shackles of society, of, conservatism, and, we got to be free, right? Forget the traditional ways that's been proven to work for 6,000 years now. No, we need to be free from that. It's time for us as people, as humans, to evolve past that way of thinking. Go ahead, Arthur.
As Eleutheros, the liberator, his wine, music, and ecstatic dance free his followers from self-conscious fear and care.
Now, what you think? If you watch a rave and those people in the dance, does any of that dancing look like it's choreographed or rehearsed or like they work on dance moves? No, their body just moving freely, just carried away by the spirit that just possessed them. Right? They're on drugs, they're whacked out. The music is at a frequency that can zap you too, mind you. The bass, the drum, all that, the electronic music, all that stuff, the glow sticks and all. It's all part of the possession. And it comes from the same gods from the ancient times. Go ahead, up.
His wine, music, and ecstatic dance free his followers from self-conscious fear and care.
From self-conscious fear. And even at the club, that's what it's all about. Just let it go. Leave your worries at home. Right? Just dance and be free and just forget it. That's why some people just become a whole total different person at the club. They put on an alter ego because they can be free now. Go ahead, on.
And thinking with that self-conscious fear, the fear of shame.
Right, no shame.
No shame.
Perfect. No shame. Go ahead, on.
And subvert the oppressive restraints of the powerful. Those who partake.
And check it out. And subvert the oppressive restraints of the powerful. Does this sound familiar? Who did they send in to lock in arms with the Black Panther movement? The hippies, the peace lovers, who had to go against the oppressive system of the government and war. So their way of showing that war is bad is having fill in the blank, right? Go ahead, Doc.
Those who partake of his mysteries are believed to become possessed.
His mysteries. To show you, we think this is normal behavior. going into a situation where we could just lose, but no, that's diving into his wisdom, his mysteries. Open yourself up to his ways and his way of thinking, because best believe, hey, if you leave the club, I like that feeling. You know, I'm going to just cope with Monday through Friday, but hey, where's my weekend warrior at come Friday night? Go ahead up.
Those who partake of his mysteries are believed to become possessed and empowered by the God himself.
Right, and now you understand why, you get the guys who just, hey, they just know how to move and operate in the club, and we become jealous of that guy, or the girls want him. He's moving with a God. That's what he's doing. The women who know how to move and operate in the club, they're moving with a God. So be careful what you think is attractive, right? And he's embodied in, for lack of better words, the stereotypical, the Fonz, right? Just the rebel guy. I couldn't think of anybody else, but right. But I mean, hey, that's just a perfect, black leather jacket, motorcycle, just living dangerously, whatever the case may be, right? Second one time. Let's just, in your notes, you can put down Acts 14:8. This is when the people thought that, Paul and Barnabas was Jupiter and Mercury. So Acts chapter 14, verses 8 through 18. Yeah, let's start to round this out. So let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 23. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Oh yeah, Chronicles, sorry. But I skipped over in your notes as well, Wisdom of Solomon chapter 13, verse 1 through 10. This is real good. So make sure you put that in your notes and read that. So Chronicles chapter 16, verse 23. Now we're showing about how we have to have respect for our God, right?
This is the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 16, verse 23. Sing unto the Lord, all the earth. Show forth from day to day his salvation. Declare his glory among the heathen, his marvelous works among all nations. For great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised. He also is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the people are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Glory and honor are in his presence. Strength and gladness are in his place. Give unto the Lord, ye kindreds of the people. Give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due unto his name. Bring an offering and come before him. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Fear before him all the earth. The Lord also shall be stable, that it be. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. Let the heavens be glad, and let the earth rejoice. And let men say among the nations, the Lord reigneth.
And that's deep, these last two verses. Yeah, let's get them all side hand, right? Giving all praises and glory. And that's another part of the truth, right? It's like, we always got to just figure out a way to, for lack of better words, be happy, right? And what I mean is, just be grateful that we have the truth. Be grateful that we have a church. Be grateful that we get baptized and things of that nature, right? And that's, just keep us being able to move forward, especially with the times that we're in. But these last two verses, it says, fear before him all the earth. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. So not these gods that Tira was making, right? They're not responsible for the earth hanging and being stable in space and not moved, right? They're just showing, the Most High's majesty and his power. So let's get Psalms 95 and 1. More on this. Right?
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 95, verse 1. O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation.
Right, because, more so what I was speaking on is, how Ezekiel, he was told to eat that roll is bitter and sweet. So sometimes we can kind of just lean too much on the bitter, right, and forget the sweet. But in scriptures like this and, the praise and worship part, they help us remember the sweet. Go ahead,
Verse 2, let us come before his presence with thanksgiving, and make a joyful noise unto him with songs. Verse 3, for the Lord is a great God, and a great King above all gods. Verse 4, in his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker.
So let's get the final scripture. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1. And as you turn your pages, right, his hand are the deep places of the earth. His hand was there to fashion it and structure it. The strength of the hills is his also. Man cannot move hills. They're stable, right? Only he can move the hills through his decree. And the sea is his. Man can't number the sea. We can't master the sea. We can't even reach the depths of the sea. We may think we can, but we can't, right? So all these things that man just thinks he can master, he can't. And the Most High was the brains behind it. So let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 8, verse 1. Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. But if any man love the Most High, the same is known of him. As concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is none other God but one. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many, but to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord, Yeshua HaMashiach, by whom are all things, and we by him.
Right, but to us, the world can do what it wants, right? But to us, there is but one God. So let's get this final commentary.
We must understand that there is only one God with one way, and that he is the God above all gods.
Right, with one way. I think before they was called Christians, the brothers will refer to each other as men of the way. And they'll refer to the belief as the way, right? There's only one way. Just like there's only one way to serve your own father. And if you go outside of that, right? If you go outside that one way to serve your father at home, who are you listening to? You're being influenced by something, whether it's TV, your friends, what have you, but you're being influenced and listening to somebody else other than your father. It's the same principle here with us. One God, and there's only one way. Go ahead on.
There are not many paths that lead to the Creator as the world will lead you to believe.
Right, and Elder Ricard goes into his lesson today how, hey, we do it backwards. We try to research and investigate the creation instead of just going to the source, the Creator. Go ahead on.
The road to the Most High God is straight, narrow, and filled with much trying of our faith and patience. Mm-hmm. We have seen the choices of our ancestors to serve other gods and other ways besides the Most High and his ways and what result it has yielded, as we are a byproduct of the disobedient decisions our foreparents chose to make. Time is short, brothers and sisters, so let's continue to learn and do the Most High's ways so that we truly know if we are serving him with our actions or serving the gods of the nations with our actions. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, family. All right, so if anybody has any questions or comments about the lesson, you can raise your hand. And we got brothers on both sides with a mic. Is that someone with a hand back there? Yep. And I believe we got Sister Esmeralda, Brother Dawada, and then Brother BJ up here in the front.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
This was a really great lesson. I took so many notes. And a lot of things were brought to mind, so I'm just going to pick a couple. So when it started out, like with basically Terah basically surrendering his son Abram to Nimrod, that brings to mind a lot what is coming up for us, that, you know, those within our household would give us up. So, you know, nothing new under the sun there. How basically, you know, like, unfortunately, like, there are family members of mine that look at me like I'm Timothy McVeigh and I'm a homemade terrorist, and I'm extremist and I'm in some kind of cult. And then they were talking about all the worship and everything, but it's also funny that really is nothing new under the sun, because people worship athletes and celebrities and all these crazy fads and stuff. So, I mean, we just don't learn, you know? And we think like, oh, well, those people were so foolish way back when. Okay, but you don't look what's happening around you. And, yeah. And it's important to also learn of the things that we do read. Actually, like, last week I actually had an argument with a polygamist. And I'm just like, are you not reading what happened to Solomon? I mean, he had the same issues his dad did. He couldn't look away, you know? These things were written for our examples. And I'm going to stop with that. Because, no, one thing I did like is the Acts 19:32, where like these people came together and they didn't know why they were all together. And it's almost like, it's kind of like chip programming, isn't it? When they all come together and like, hey, how did we all get here? You know, so it's kind of crazy. I think that's it. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
And I just have a detail. We were talking about Jupiter. Yeah. And then when we got to another pronunciation of his name, we called it Jovi. But in the Latin languages, we know that the J made the Y sound. And the V made the W sound. So I'm pretty sure the pronunciation of that is Yahweh. All praise for that. And I don't know what Passover was that? When some of you all might remember, when Elder Ricard first brought this information out, it was at the Passover on the Friday night talk when he first brought out Jovi, and I was connected to, Yahweh and Yahweh and Jehovah and things like that. So the water for that out, and yeah, it's an old lesson, but if you're in the academy, the last one he did, the origin of Esau, he breaks it down with the different translations and how it went through time, right? So we got BJ, and then we got the brother right there in the middle, right?
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom.
When you guys was going into the details of Jupiter, I went back to the Hebrew Academy lesson with 2, tracing the serpent seed. And with your example of Jupiter, with the lightning bolt and the flashes, I thought of the Flash. And they're saying in tracing the serpent seed, they show Superman. Superman's real name is Kal-El, and the L is God or God, and the S, Satan or serpent. And then they went to another example of a fallen angel named Lilith. Yeah. And when I thought of Lilith, I thought of Superwoman.
Hey, there you go.
So it's kind of funny that we're going into these examples and we see these examples, and you know, we can probably all attest that we were all some type of Marvel or DC fans at one point, or really like going to the movies. So I just wanted to share that and help brothers and sisters with that. Yeah, with that.
And I want to mention one thing on with the Superman. Remember when they asked what the S mean? He said it was hope. So with that S, with the serpent, like you're saying, there's like hope in me as far as that. So.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I just wanted to know what chapter and verse that was with the Maccabees.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we got 2 Maccabees, chapter 6, verses 1 through 7. Jupiter, the defender of strangers. But anybody else? Okay, a few hands went up. All right, like all at the same time. So we got, let's just do Sister Tamara. We got Officer Picard, and then we got the two brothers up here. Since you're right there, Bob, right?
I just had a quick question. Do you know why it was that the Israelites needed Aaron to make the golden calf? Like, you know.
I would just go with, like I said earlier in the lesson, like, hey, he's the one who's already there with Moses. So he already represents some level of authority, you know, with the movement of the people, right? So I just would say just quite naturally, because he wasn't established as the high priest yet, but he is right there, Moses' right hand, and he was already speaking to the people, being Moses' mouthpiece. So quite naturally, you know, he's next in line, sort of say. Yep. So we got Officer Picard, and then we got Brother George and Officer Yahya.
That was an excellent lesson. In terms of idols, see, that's where we as parents, both male and female, we kind of make our mistakes. What are our bedtime stories? When we entertain our kids, are they reading about Superman or Yeshaya? Are they more concerned about Greek mythology? Do you teach them twinkle, 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 little star, how I wonder how you are? Or are you teaching them about our history, our customs, the reality? Are you talking to that child that's about to be born to you? What are they listening to? What about your own children? Men, are you taking the time to tell the stories of our past? Prevent the child's mind and prevent the children's mind to grow up and think only of idols as their heroes, instead of learning the real heroes of our culture.
Shabbat Shalom. So I wanted to speak towards the malignant root you were talking about, and you were saying you always have to have that trimmed down. You got to constantly trim that malignant root. And it just made me think about, I just did some yard work about 3 weeks ago, and I had some weeds that had grown into real tall trees, and they were covering up the light coming in the house and everything. So I got out there and cut them all down, all over the yard. And here it is, 3-4 weeks later, they almost halfway grown back up. And it just makes me think about that in your life, like how you always have to trim that down, and if you don't, it can grow into trees unbearable and block out your light and just put you on a path that you don't need to be on. So that's all I had.
Shalom. So just getting into what we said, that there's nothing new, and we know that they're in the States here, we have the eagle, but of course there's always going to be a flood of more. It made me think about the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. You have a donkey, you have an elephant, and they have colors that go with it, red and blue. And then we have it for our own neighborhoods, Crips and Bloods, red and blue, comes back to that. But then if you go back to looking at the donkey and you look at the elephant, they actually have origins that go back to pagan means and ways, and you can look at that yourself and figure that out, get some, do the history on yourself to look at it more if this really got in your mind, because it does go to more, whether it's the origins are from different, I would say that they're spread out all over the place, because they got it built to fit everybody. They got it built to fit all the nations, the elephant, the donkey. And they do go back to Greece, and they go back to Rome. So it's built for everybody, for us to stay with these angels to keep them in our mind. That's all I have.
So we got Sham, and we'll end it here and move along with the order of service.
Shalom, family. I just want to give all praise to the Most High and His Son, because when you brought out the thing about the clubs and about the gods and about the raves, I found myself, calling myself so-called Christian, going to these raves in New York City, and I used to wear, even at the time, when you were speaking of that, I was thinking of the verses that were taken out of 2nd Esdras, how the Most High, one way that a torment that the sinners will face will be that when you were in the world, you had a chance to do what was right, and the Most High was always there guiding us to do the right thing, and we chose against it. Like, I look back at one of the times I was at one of those raves, and I had a shirt on that said, "Jesus is a black man," and Revelations 1:14-15. So I just want to give him all praise, because even in those dark times, he was with us, directing us, guiding us, giving us wisdom, giving us knowledge and understanding to serve him. And, then we chose wrong, but now we're here, and I'm just grateful to be here. And, he deserves all the praise.
All right, so moving along, do we have anybody here for the first time? Okay. Brother, just stand, let us know who you are. Who invited you today? We got the mic for you right here.
Shalom, everyone. My name is Richard. I came here with my parents. I'm from the Atlanta body. I just moved up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so y'all be seeing me more often.
Oh, praise.
So who your parents, huh?
They right there. Way better than y'all. Put me on blast.
All right, all praises, all praises. Let's give the Most High one more hand. Right? So we'll go ahead and move in the tithes and offering portion, and I'll hand it over to Officer Yaquab and the choir. We have the two brothers on each side with the basket going along the aisles, and whatever you give is much appreciated. Also, just be mindful that there are tithing envelopes behind the chairs, but for whatever reason, if you don't have one, just raise your hand, the brothers has more.
We're here for another time to praise the Most High.
Yeah!
That's right. Praise is always in order. Scripture says he inhabits the praise of his people. We are his people. 2 Samuel chapter 22, familiar passage to us all, I believe. And it says, and David spake unto the Lord the words of this song, in the day that the Most High had delivered him out of the hand of his enemies and out of the hand of Saul. And he said, the Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. The power of my rock, in him will I trust. He's my shield, the horn of my salvation, my high tower, my refuge, my Savior. Thou savest me from violence. Just reading, just going on. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from mine enemies. When the waves of death compassed me, the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about, the snares of death prevented me. In my distress I called upon the Lord and cried to my power. And he did hear my voice out of his temple, and my cry did enter into his ears. So we want to say, do not pass us by, Most High. Hear our cry, which you do.
All right, so before we move into announcements, I just want to make a statement that we're going back to the old format with the prayer list. So if anybody did not sign the prayer list, here's a chance. And what I mean is, when we sign the prayer list, we announce your name and announce your prayer. Yeah, so we have the clipboard right up here up front, so you can just move your way up front if you'd like to sign a prayer list. really the main one. The barbecue next week, Con. Just remember the barbecue is next week. And remember, want to make the disclaimer that we had the menu volunteer list. However, if you still want to volunteer as far as putting funds forward, you can do that. You can see my wife afterwards. And also, if you want to, put funds for the prizes, because we're going to be playing some adult games this year, so we want to have some prizes, and then also for the raffle, right? And with that, if you want to buy a raffle ticket, you still have time, and we'll just do it like we did last time. Just put your name down and do the Cash App transaction later on when the sun goes down. So remember, barbecue next week. We sent the details out. We'll send out another reminder email, and with that, just you ready to have some fun next week, right? All right. So we'll go ahead and move forward to begin our prayer to close out the service. So if everybody can please stand and face the east.
Dear Father, we humbly approach your throne in the name of your mighty Son, Yeshua. Father, we come before you with thanksgiving in our hearts. We want to take time and let you know how much you are appreciated. We thank you for allowing us to make it here today safely. We thank you for the wonderful things you do in our life. We thank you for being the lamp unto our feet and the light unto our path. We thank you, Father, for being our shepherd, who leads us down still waters and restores our soul. We thank you for being our provider, how you make sure that we are nourished every day. We thank you very much for our children. We thank you for bringing us to the truth. We love you for it, that you thought enough of us to take the walk to salvation, and also bring in the word so that we can prepare ourselves along the way. Father in heaven, we're going to lift this prayer list up to you. And Officer Isaiah will read it.
In the midst of the request, you'll hear me say two Hebrew words, Barak Rapah, which mean blessing and healing. Barak Rapah, the Walker family, for Christ to move in their hearts. Barak Rapah, Chris Flores, forgiveness of sins. Barak Rapah, Sister Tashia Glass, silent prayer. Barak Rapah, Sister Zakia Casey, for healing. Barak Rapah, Sister Erica, for clarity and direction. Barak Rapah to Kelly and baby Kylie, healing and complete recovery. Barak Rapah for baby Tamayim, healing of sight. Barak Rapah, baby Mayashar, healing from mute. Barak Rapah, Arian Skinner, being on ventilator due to heart attack, Sister Tamara's aunt. Barak Rapah, Sister Kadawa, praying for endurance, guidance, strength, temperance, also for the Fields family and for their loss of their son. Barak Wapa, Sister Dia, praying for my father Benny with his recovering from his stroke. Barak Wapa, Sister Esmeralda, strength for caregiving and attacks from pagans to endure. Barak Wapa, Sister Anita, Larry Peoples diagnosed with cancer, hospitalized with fever and infection for healing. Barak Wapa, the Craig family, for strength and blessings. Barak Wapa, Sister Anicia, silent prayer. Barak Wapa, the Edmond family, for their family, guidance, understanding, diligence, and healing. In the name of AHRAYAH Shem Yeshaya Wabarakadash. Amen.
Father, we thank you for answering those prayers. We thank you for your son, Yeshaya, because we know by his stripes we are healed. Barak Rapah to the elders and the bishops of GOCC and their families. Barak Rapah for the deacons of Chicago GOCC and their families. Barak Rapah to the officers and their family. Barak Rapah to the brothers. And Barak Rapah to the brothers with families. Barak Rapah to the sisters and their children and all of Yasharala. Dear Father, we also want you to know how much we love you. In Yeshua's name, Amen.
Everybody can repeat after me. AHRAYAH. Bahashem. Yeshaya. Our Father. Which art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. AHRAYAH. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth. As it is in heaven. Give us this day. Our daily bread. And forgive us. Our debts. As we forgive. Our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen.